Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the B2B Revenue Leadership Show. We've got a special episode today. The CEO of Gong.io is joining us. And Gong, if you're unaware of it, is a conversational intelligence application applying artificial intelligence to the phone and sales calls. So what's great about this is it solves that problem of the quality. Too many of us are stuck in the quantity analysis of sales. We got that down. We got number of calls, connects, voicemails, emails, call times. But what happens during the call? The most important part. Here we're going to talk about exactly what that does and how it's impacted companies and changing the game in the sales space today, and how it can really help your reps get that feedback immediately after the call so that they can improve dramatically. And it's completely subjective, meaning nobody's biased and it doesn't impact the quality of the call afterwards. And the managers don't have to spend their time doing all this coaching and call review. And it's just, let's face it, sales managers are overwhelmed. So even if you're in marketing today, this is a capability that you really can understand exactly what customers are talking about, caring about, asking about, so that you can develop your process accordingly. So let's get into the interview. I'll sum it up at the end, but I think you're really going to get a lot out of this. And make sure you check out Gong at gong.io. You can schedule a demo, and I think you'd be pretty excited to see what you can do with it. Also, they've got a great blog if you're just interested in what research is coming out of the Gong application and the correlations and causations that they're finding in sales today. Hey, Amit, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Hey, Brian, good to be here. So I'm Amit Bendov, co-founder and CEO of Gong.io. We're a San Francisco-based company with about 90 people. Gong is the fourth company that I'm leading. Prior companies, including Click Software, was one of the founding team members until an IPO on NASDAQ. I was a CMO of a company called Panaya, and then a CEO of a company called Sisense in the business intelligence space. What else can I tell you?
Well, you got one of the most well-rounded careers I've seen. You both have a computer science degree, marketing experience, sales experience, and CEO experience. That's pretty unique.
And I only told you half. There's more. I'm trying to keep it short. But yeah, I've done pretty much every role in a company. I've done development, I've done product, marketing, sales, obviously leadership, except for finance.
Yeah, that's probably good. Now, how did you come up with the idea for Gong, or did you? Was it your idea, or was it a group type thing?
The initial idea was mine, but obviously there are a lot of people who helped bring it to life and make it a reality. I'd like to say that the idea for Gong was born in a quarter from hell. And I hope you never experienced one of those, but I'm sure a lot of our listeners did. And I always take pride in all the companies that I never missed a number in my career. It's always like quarter after quarter, no matter how hard it was. I'm pretty religious about it. And then at Sisense, we're growing really, really fast, and then all of a sudden we have a fantastic quarter, and then like a month later, sales are starting to take a nosedive, and I have no idea what's going on. There are a lot of things there. We hired a lot of people, and we brought new lead sources, and we got new competitors, and there was a lot of discussion and finger pointing. Marketing were saying you hired a bunch of rookies, which was true. And the sales people were saying, yeah, we have leads, but the leads that we're getting now don't have the sense of urgency. And we got new competitors that just went public. So it was hard to figure out what's going on. And there's absolutely nothing in this area. In my head, product managers and sales operations people just go and sift through the notes and run the numbers, and everything looked good. Except for actually closing deals.
Those dashboards look pretty, but
yeah. So the number of calls, number of activities were all fine, and we had to resort to actually understanding what's really going on. Are we talking with the right customers. Has the market changed on us? Is anything? And we couldn't figure out. And the only way to find out was actually listen to conversations, see what people are writing or speaking. And that was like pretty time consuming. And, we're doing something to the tune of 2,000 opportunities a quarter. We could take a sample of 20. So definitely we don't want to make decisions based on some anecdotes and telltales. So, and that's when I started looking for something that can give us some clarity about what's really happening with customers, not just what's, the very little meeting notes that are, minimal and late and biased, but the reality.
And that's what
the idea for Gong.
Yeah, and that's what I've seen with my clients is that they look at calls as binary. It went well, it didn't go well. And I go, well, there's a lot of degrees in there between 0 and 1. And I think that you guys have kind of been able to tap into what is actually going on in those calls.
Right. It's looking inside. And again, it's not necessarily worse, there is no went well. It's a range, and it could go well in some perspective, but not so well in others. And worse, if you take 3 different people and ask them to grade the call, you might get 6 different opinions.
That's it, because you get rapport, and that's usually a feeling that people get after the call. But, somebody who's experienced, like a manager, is looking for a call to action, a next meeting, identify who the competition is, what are the issues, what's the next step that's going to take place. And, and reps are smart enough to put into the CRM manually what the manager wants to see, not what the manager needs to see.
Right. I mean, sometimes definitely there is a strong bias. What ends up being in Salesforce, sometimes it's deliberate, but sometimes it's very innocent, right? If I'm a new rep and someone telling, your software is amazing, I'm really interested, and they get excited and they forecast a deal. But a more seasoned person, if they would look at the same call, they see that this is not going to happen. So that leads to a lot of pain and agony and trouble.
Now, how did you kind of start a company like this? Because it seems very daunting, especially 3 years ago, as far as, applying AI to it. There's all kinds of moving pieces. I'm sure the investors were can you give us, a minimum viable product before we put money into this? What was that like?
It wasn't an easy sell because we got lots of very smart people that found lots of problems with the concept. And first, we don't believe you'll never get the accuracy. It's very nuanced. Or salespeople are going to hate it, and they're going to see it as a big brother. And customers would not want to be recorded, and all kinds of very, very reasonable arguments. But what we did, we actually evaluated the concept with about 50 sales leaders, which I would recommend to anyone. Sometimes, you think it's a great idea, and it turns out you're the only one in the world who's excited, and you've just spent 3 years, and nothing's going to come out of it. So it's always good to do reality check. So we interviewed 50 people, Elon, my co-founder, and I, and asked him, here's what we're looking to build. We even have a mock-up, and tell us, what do you think, and how much would we be willing to pay? And everybody felt across the board it's a great idea. They told us what they're willing to pay, which is less than what we hoped, but it was still reasonable and enough to start a business. And that they said that they like the idea, but it sounds like science fiction. Too good to be true, which is what I always like to hear. So all my companies, we sold stuff that sounded too good to be true. That's where you want to be, not interesting or sounds good, but too good to be true. The disbelief is actually pretty good, that the value's there, just doesn't believe it's possible.
And what were some of the first use cases, the first capabilities that it could do that managers really wanted to see?
So it's not what we initially thought. So Elon and I, we started a company. We put together an engineering team, and then we went to a about a dozen friends and family company. The idea was that we're providing analytics on top and kind of like manager dashboards. And we didn't have data. So we said, okay, first year, that was 2016, we're going to find a dozen companies. Acton was one of them where you're coming from at those days. It would volunteer to record calls, and then we can use the data to train the AI models. And we didn't think anyone's going to use it. We weren't planning on selling anything. And then something strange happened. We got our first support case that the salesperson complained that Gong didn't record a call. And we kind of scratching our head, well, that's interesting. Why would someone care? And we started looking at the logs, and we saw that people are logging in and started to go in and listen, and they search for stuff. And we did a few optimizations. And then we understood that people are using it to understand the reality of deals. What's going on? How's the deal progressing? Are we saying the right things? What are customers saying? Getting a first impression. And we did some fine tuning. So the first use case was kind of like for frontline managers and salespeople. For the salespeople, it was like meeting notes on steroids. It allows them to focus on a conversation without worrying about taking detailed notes and updating their managers. And managers got unbelievable visibility to the deals in their pipeline.
And how about getting those first customers, the paying ones? What was that like?
That's another interesting story. So we actually weren't planning on selling anything in 2016 because we thought that the product isn't where we wanted to be. We were planning to do some of the advanced analytics that we didn't have at the time. We didn't have enough data. But we saw that the engagement was so good around March. We just launched the product in an alpha of the product in January. In March, usage started to go higher. And then we did some more optimization, like adding people to allowing people to comment and share calls and collaborate. And that increased engagement. We added some email notification, engagement went up. So the people are using it on a daily basis. And then I thought, okay, no, what the heck? Let's do a trial close. Okay, let's see if people will actually buy the product, even though we weren't planning. And again, the goal wasn't the money. We had money, but we wanted to see if people are willing to pay what we think they should. And if not, we wanted to learn what are we doing wrong and where does the product need to be for people to buy. So we reached out to everybody in, I think around May. There was like 5 months of alpha and told, okay, beta is over, time to buy.
Yeah.
And, just wanted to see what happens. And what happened is that 11 of the 12 bought. People balked and it says, oh, this is unplanned budget. And, I wasn't planning for it. But honestly, I do not want this to go away. So let me see what I can do. And they all bought. And only one company didn't buy then, but now they're a customer. So I'm happy to say 12 out of 12. And then we understood that we're really onto something that is exciting. I mean, we believed it from day one, but that was like a great validation.
And was it a struggle trying to keep engineering focused on the use cases that the market really needed and doing it gradually? Because I can see something like this kind of going wild, scope creep, as the engineers call it, because there's so much fun stuff that you can do with it?
No, it wasn't a challenge. I think we really have a fantastic team. First, Elon is a great product. He's got great product thinking. Sometimes, I'd come up with a daily amazing idea, and he'll keep me on track. And there's no shortage of things. So it's a very focused team, and we believe in data. From day one, we built a lot of dashboards. I alluded to some of that early in our understanding of engagement, how people use the product, and whenever there's opinions, we try to support them with data and understand what's the right decision.
And then how did you scale it from that first original 10, 11 accounts to hiring salespeople? Obviously, you did a great job with marketing, but you're also going into the U.S. I'm sure you had experience in the U.S., but it's still, a pretty big geographic difference.
So all of our market is in the U.S. All of our customers we have some global multinationals, but all of our customers were in the U.S. from day one. And So I told you the first 11 or 12 customers, the beta that bought, and then we didn't have a pipeline for anything else, right? That was it. So we got 11 customers, and then that was like in June. And then I called Udi, who's currently our VP marketing. We worked together at two companies before. Says, hey, Udi, I need to do some lead gen here. Can you come and start on a consulting basis? And he started putting a few campaigns together. I was doing all the sales calls at the time. And Iran Haloni was the CEO and was helping build the US operation. We took calls, and they're coming, and it was a fairly easy sell. The first motion, we were trying to go SDR-less, for lack of a better name. So we said, let's see if people ask for a demo, just get them directly on my calendar. And my calendar was filled with quite a bit of good stuff, but a lot of unqualified people. But I was thrilled because I was getting to, understand the pitch. And, even if you get people that aren't buyers, it's still a good experience. And then around January 17th, I had one SDR, and I was getting so many calls, and I told him, like, Eric, okay, just stop doing SDR work. Like, anything that's less than 10 users, you go and sell. And he was like killing it in the first quarter. And I says, okay, anything more than 20, less than 20. And then we started raising the bar. And we started hiring salespeople. So we hired Jameson, who's a fantastic VP of sales. And now we brought Ryan. So built pretty intensive marketing and lead gen and sales machine. But you got to start it on your own. Otherwise, you'll never figure out the pitch and the objections and how to position the product.
And that's it. And you're selling to a very difficult market. I mean, sales leaders are kind of overwhelmed, I'm sure, as you remember, because you got this quarterly number, you got planning, you got strategy, you got now operations, and adding a new technology into it is difficult. How have you found selling into that market compared to the other markets you've sold into?
Well, I've never sold in a market that was really easy. You always need to work hard. So if you've heard of one, let me know. Maybe we'll start a new company. It's always hard, okay? But relatively speaking, Gong is actually, it doesn't sell itself, but it's as close as it gets from everything that I've experienced before. But we had our challenges. So early on, we started selling to, the leads that we're getting are mostly sales operations.
Yeah.
And great people, but they're all telling us that, wow, this is really cool technology, but it's not in our budget, which is true. And we have 2 or 3 other projects that we're working on right now, but consistently almost like a default answer. And fortunately, we had Gong, so we could look at the calls together and understand that we're actually selling to the wrong person, because we need someone that can do things that are outside of the ordinary. So then we started selling to sales leaders, and that was fairly easy from there. I mean, they're not the toughest buyers. I mean, it's actually a lot of fun because they can appreciate a good sales call. And if you're good, it's great. If you're not good, they'll call you on it. So actually, it's pretty entertaining. Negotiation is always fun because you both know what's going on.
Yeah, they all know what to do.
And we're using a lot of customer references. So what works for us, and a lot of customers will say this is by far a number one tool, maybe like after Salesforce. Most people would rank it as number one. I think that was even the feedback at Acton at the time when people were grading their tool. So the stories, no, it's not like anything else that you've experienced, and just try it out.
And that's it, because there is no other way to really judge a sales call other than it closes or it doesn't close. Everyone's got happy ears, what we say in the U.S., when people hear what they want to hear versus hearing what's said or what's meant. And I always say the only people who stretch the truth more than salespeople are customers. So you have to be able to determine, what's real and what isn't real. And also that this whole generation of millennials are not used to talking on the phone. That, certainly I grew up talking on the phone. There was no texting. If you wanted to talk to your friends, that was the way you did it. And today, it's the last thing you do with your phone.
Right. So that's how we sell. I mean, it's we provide a trial, and because it's hard to explain what the product does until you actually experience it. And I'm likening to like flying an F-16. I could talk about it day in and day out until you get in and experience firsthand. You'll never understand what it feels like. So we provided the early customers with a POC. We still do, even though sometimes we have customers that are just, I want to buy, but we make everybody go through a POC just to make sure we're a good fit and then understand what they're buying. But that's, and once people try it, they're usually very excited, and it's much easier from that point.
And have you found a way to connect it to revenue increase that's tangible?
Oh, yeah. So the story is bigger. It's like Gong is a strategic systems that once you get it creates transparency, and everybody can understand the reality of what's going on. So it's like running. It's hard to imagine running a company without it. Once you have it in, it's like the equivalent of a CRM, but it's based on reality and not based on manual updates. That said, most of our customers require increase in win rate. Half the time for onboarding new reps, which is huge, and sometimes just the cost is like 0.1% of the revenue, or just one deal that you close more than covers for it. So it's one of the best investment you can make. It's pretty easy to justify the ROI. We have customers A/B test a couple of groups, and so a 12% increase for groups that followed Gong's recommendation versus groups that didn't.
Because everybody today is talking about ramp. How do you ramp the team fast enough? How do you get them on the phone fast enough? How do you get the deals and this high velocity sales model that everybody wants, but is hard to create? And without giving tangible feedback that's immediate, without being on the call, which I think has, the observation effect that they have in like science, where once someone's watched, they act differently. But having it be a passive, subjective, AI-based thing, I think people are more apt to take that feedback.
Absolutely. First, they like it a lot. It's like a Fitbit, right? Just gives you feedback that allows you to get better. For example, talk time, it's one of the metrics that is easy to understand. The amount of time, the percentage of time that you're talking versus the prospect. And it's fairly common for new hires to speak 85% of the time. Just because they're anxious, they're not as confident, or they talk how great our company is and all of this, versus like the other way around, where the optimal is 46%. So this is very easy to fix. Just Gongs will give them feedback after every call, and you'll see the graph and the charts start to go down. Without anybody having to do it. Just this self-awareness and this kind of biofeedback is huge.
And where do you see this capability going? I mean, because today you're working off of, you're translating it into text and then analyzing that. Do you see things like testing or monitoring tonality, kind of runovers where people talk over each other? Building a sales process around it?
Yes. So we actually, people interrupting each other is something that we have today. So we have something that's very popular. It's called the patience factor.
Yeah.
And it ranges from a negative to, on average, how long does it take you to respond? Do you pause? Do you wait? Do you count to 3 before you respond, or you jump in? So that's already in. Tonality, we've actually researched that and found, because the majority of our customers today are in B2B, and the words have a much higher significance than tone. I could say, it goes full transparency. We're going to be looking at you and these 2 other guys. Right? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't say anything, but I said something that was very troubling. So sentiment is there, but it's mostly based on a text, and patience is definitely an important factor.
And how about as far as like building it interactively as opposed to post call? Would that confuse reps or distract them?
It depends. It's very easy to distract. If you,
Yeah, you're in the
you know,
flow.
if you bother them with nonsense, then it'll distract. If you provide something useful, then it helps. So we are working on something for next year that provides some real time aid in a way that is not distracting and provides real value. Some of the common problems that we're seeing today.
And do you see any consultants evolving out of this, like what you saw, I'm sure, when you were selling in the MarTech space, that, MarTech, these agencies kind of pop up based around products. Have there been any sales consultants based around Gong and, how to tune it and its output to a particular sale of a particular product?
On a technical level, there isn't a whole lot to do because we have we built it for salespeople, and we know that it's hard to get them to do anything. So Gong kind of like tunes itself. We always have to stress there's no implementation, there's no configuration. It's just activation. Just turn it on and see how it works. Okay, so we've one of our constraints that there's nothing for you to do. So there's no implementation, there's no system integration. It's all like ready to go. But where we do have like great partnership with some of the sales training companies. I mean, for them, it's fantastic because they can go in, they can really diagnose what the situation is. They can do some of the retention services, and they would recommend us. So it's more on a sales methodology level versus the technicalities of Gong. But who knows, maybe one day.
Well, that's it, because in my experience, the reps that grade themselves after each call, what we used to call a post-mortem, after these face-to-face calls. And I was lucky enough early in my career to have that with a manager. We go for almost an hour after each face-to-face meeting and pull it all apart. And that's really how I learned to sell. But that's so contextual. On whether you're selling a 10K product or a 100K or $1 million product.
Right.
And, yeah.
Right. So what we are launching now, and it's already working at a few of our more advanced customers, something called Whisper, that is an automated sales coach. So if you think of the potential, you take like thousands of conversations and outcomes in a CRM, you see in the end, the outcomes could be either the deal close or move to a stage, or even a net promoter score, right? What leads to customer satisfaction, any parameter. And Gong will start identifying what are the top reps doing that other people aren't, and start to coach everybody and get them closer to the top performing people, which is the holy grail. That's what everybody wants to know. But there are no people involved. It's all automated. Just the system just sits there, listen like a fly on the wall, and just makes recommendations what you need to improve to be closer to some of the best people.
And how about companies being able to have all these conversations and turn it into a training capability, meaning, parse out the customer's questions or responses to typical parts of the demo or presentation or conversation, and have people be able to answer them. And those answers are then correlated to the deals that closed. Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah. I mean, even today, you can go and show me what are customer asking around pricing, or what are they asking about this feature or the other. And that's great for both sales enablement, so they can prepare the team, and sometimes for the product people, right? So they know what people don't understand or don't like about the product.
And what advice would you have for other CEOs that are, kind of on this cutting edge of technology that's, probably a little bit ahead of where everything is today? And how do they kind of capture this and bring it to market? I'm sure you learned a lot from the last 2 years.
There are a lot of things. I mean, everybody wants a silver bullet. There isn't any. There are a dozen of things. It's very easy not to succeed. It's hard to succeed. But the best advice, if I have to boil down to one, just especially if you're an engineering or product kind of CEO. If you're not from sales, hire someone great, like early. I get a lot of CEO friends. Do you know like anyone's like a salesperson could be on a first salesperson, a director? And my response is, why are you looking for a junior person? Just your focus should be in making sure that you win and get the early traction, or the cost wouldn't matter. It's hard to get it right early on. You're probably doing it wrong. You're selling to the wrong people. You might be presenting it right. And if it doesn't work and you've hired someone junior, then you wouldn't know if it's because you've made it a bit higher or there's something with your product or market. If you hire someone that is seasoned and has been in early stage a number of times and was successful, it's much more likely that the problem is yours and not them. So just mitigate risk and hire the best person you can hire. Sales is hard and not something that you would want to deal with early on.
And what is the biggest benefit that Gong's got out of using your own product? Any particular lessons there?
Well, we wouldn't be Gong without Gong.
I mean, the sales people using it.
Yeah. We definitely drink our own beer. So I spoke about the challenge for selling to the wrong people, like early on.
Yeah.
It took us 3 weeks to understand that. Without Gong, it probably would have taken us 6 months, and maybe would had to change a market or fire people or something because it wasn't working. Right now, with Gong, we could very easily understand what the pattern is and why we're not successful.
And if there was a VP of sales out there that were thinking, well, this is a nice to have versus a must have, how would you handle that?
I say Gong is kind of like a dishwasher. It's not a must have. You could do well without it, but once it's in, there's no way out. So there's a huge gap between people that already have it. We have zero churn that is voluntary. We have 300 customers right now, less than a couple handful stopped using, and they all either the company died or got acquired. So just try it out. I warn people that it's like crack. It's pretty addictive, and the first bags are free, and then it's not. But seeing is believing. Experimenting is once you see it, it's so powerful that once you see it, you understand the full power.
Cool. Hey, appreciate your time. Where do people go to try it out?
Gong.io. Request a demo, and we'll be happy to talk. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out directly to me on LinkedIn, but definitely the company website as a demo request, and we'd love to speak with you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that. I got a lot out of that because getting that immediate feedback, that post-mortem is what we used to call it when we had face-to-face sales meetings. You would plan the call, prep for it, have it, and then afterwards analyze how well it went. Now, wouldn't it be great to have the actual game tape, the transcription, and some feedback about that immediately after the call without you having to take copious notes and have a lot of he said, she said, different perspectives. Now, what we got to understand is when we're in a call, we're like a athlete on the field. We really can't see ourselves. We're totally focused. We're in that flow state of really doing what we do best, talking to customers. But what we aren't getting is the impressions that other people may have and how to get better. And the time to get feedback is immediately. It's not that annual review or waiting to see if the deal dies. This can give you little hints about how to get better each time and the likelihood of that deal closing and where you should put it into your priority list. So check out gong.io. I'm really impressed with the people, the product, and this capability because that feedback is so critical. It is so much more important than just the number of dials, connects. Yes, you have to work hard, but when you get that needle in the haystack, you really have to come prepared and learn from it and grow from it. Because today we've got a lot of junior people in the field, and we've got to train them, coach them with real data. instead of just anecdotal stuff. So check it out, gong.io. Hey, I really appreciate everybody who supports the podcast. Make sure you're checking the company page over at b2brevenue.com, as well as the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. Connect up with me on LinkedIn. Just say you mentioned the podcast so I know who you are, and I'll connect up with you. If you see any of my content on LinkedIn, I really appreciate a like, comment, or a share, and we'll see you next time. Also, if you want to get my free ebook, it's over at b2brevenue.com. And if you're interested in the courses on how to start the conversation and get the meeting and applying that to your team, be happy to talk it over with you. There's a calendar link where you can schedule a call with me. Look forward to it.